Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive, bringing you guys a brand new Pokemon Sword and Shield video today. Today is all about Sobble, man, and the Sobble squad. So all you Sobble lovers out there, get yourselves ready, get hyped, and hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you guys are new, as we are closing on 500,000 subscribers in the aDrive army, which is nuts. A new GameInformer interview has dropped about Sobble, and we're going to cover that interview in detail here and also talk a little bit about what we think is going to go down with Sobble. Should be pretty interesting. If you missed the last video, I talked about Scorbunny and Grookey in the same video. In this video, we're going to strictly talk about Sobble because the interview came out after the fact. So we're going to jump into all that. There's some pretty interesting stuff, some pretty cool comments, and all that good stuff, man. So I'm excited about it. By the way, shouts to the Halloween-themed office, man. It looks pretty cool. So shouts to my wife for being an absolute legend. Anyway, we've got the Aflac leak here, as most videos start with nowadays. Couple things here. Let's strictly speak about Sobble. Sobble becomes Sizzle, or Sizzile, and then Inteleon, a chameleon with a spy theme. So for those who aren't familiar with this, really quick recap. The Ben Affleck leak has been out for months, since May. It has gotten so many things right, including character names, new Pokemon names, etc. So most of us, myself included, are taking this as pretty much fact at this point. So we do believe that Sobble is going to evolve into Sizzile, and then it's going to evolve into a Pokemon called Inteleon, which is a chameleon with a spy theme. So with that being said, I'm curious to see your thoughts on a potential chameleon spy evolution for Sobble, and what typing you guys think that could be. Do you think it's going to be Psychic type? Do you think it's going to be Ghost type? Do you think it's going to be just pure water? Is it going to be, I don't know, like, I think Psychic and Ghost are probably the most likely to fit with a spy theme, in my opinion. I think Ghost would make actually a lot of sense. But who knows? I mean, my initial thoughts when I saw Sobble would be maybe Dragon or something like that. But anything is possible. Anyway, let's jump into this kind of interview that threw down, and I thought it was pretty interesting through GameInformer. I'll put the link in the description if you guys want to check that out and you want to watch the full interview, but I'm going to summarize it here and kind of add my thoughts and perspective. So there's a couple things, right? So the first thing here is we've got a bunch of different stuff, but let's talk about this one. So he says, I think that people who choose Sobble are going to be very kind and caring. They're good people. There's a lot of conversation in this interview about Sobble and how they were a little unsure, actually. Sobble was approached a little bit differently than some of the other starters because it is a little bit depressed looking, right? It's pretty sad. And I guess there's some pretty interesting comments about Japanese culture and how in Japan they maybe want to take care of things that look a little sad because they find them cute. And I think that that kind of transcended across outside of Japanese culture, across all cultures. Because I would say that at this point, Sobble is probably the most popular of the three starters right now. And that's very interesting, again, considering it is so different. It is a starter with a frown on its face. It obviously is very timid and shy, and I think that those qualities actually resonate with a lot of people. And to the people that maybe don't resonate exactly with those feelings, they want to protect little Sobble. So it's been a really kind of impactful starter Pokemon, and it's very interesting to see how people have kind of received it. And I can tell you my first thoughts of Sobble was I love Sobble. I'm still torn on my starter though, I really am, but nevertheless, pretty cool stuff there. He then goes on to talk about it's pretty rare for a starter Pokemon to be this kind of a meek design, as I had mentioned. They really generally kind of go with a different approach with starter Pokemon, but they looked at this set of starters as different. They kind of created ideas, and it was actually a pair of women on the team who ultimately came up with Sobble's design, which was pretty neat in my opinion. They had the really energetic Scorbunny, the mood maker Grookey, but they wanted something a little bit more subdued as well, and that's where Sobble came into play. Is you got this little sad chameleon dude who kind of disappears in water, and those are some of the cooler qualities about Sobble. It's unique even amongst all the starter Pokemon. So even just looking at the starters in this gen and across all the generations, Sobble really stands out, again, because of his demeanor, because of his expression. And it's going to be interesting to see whether he maintains that throughout his evolutionary line. Is he going to stay this kind of sad, kind of depressed looking little chameleon, or is it going to turn into something that's like, you know, confident and stuff like that? And I think we kind of saw that in a way with Rowlet. Rowlet goes from being kind of this little bird into this like teenage phase Dartrix, and then ultimately like the super noble, like ready to take action Decidueye, right? There's definitely some factor of us not knowing whether it would be designed accepted on a worldwide scale. As I had mentioned previously, they weren't really sure how the world was going to perceive Sobble overall, because it was such a new approach for them. And I wonder if they're going to approach new Pokemon and more Pokemon like this in the future. And then again, they talk about Japan. There's definitely some culture of feeling like something is cute because you feel sorry for it a bit, and I do think that that transcended outside of Japan. And then there was no translation needed because James Turner was speaking in English here. The gentleman on the left holding Sobble is James Turner. He's the art director for Pokemon Sword and Shield, and he goes on to say that he really likes Sobble. Sobble is his favorite because he wants to protect it, but he also goes on to say that he really likes its evolutionary line. And unfortunately, James did not give any more information about that. He just simply said, you know, I really like its evolutionary line. I really like how it kind of evolves, and that was all the details he gave us, which was a bit of a bummer because it doesn't really give us much direction in terms of what we're gonna see out of Sobble, other than that James is a big fan of its evolutionary line. But with the Aflac leak, we can really kind of tease out the fact that there's a really good chance we're gonna get that spy-themed chameleon that we've been waiting for, right? That's what we've been talking about since May, this Sisile, Inteleon. I think it's very possible that we're ultimately gonna get that. And then when asked kind of if there's a connection for the starter Pokemon, this is a big question here. If there's a connection for the starter Pokemon with the region, the Galar region, the UK, etc., what's the connection? And Amori says that makes sense with the Galar region why these are the starters. Once you see their final forms, it's all gonna click. You're gonna know why these are the starters in the Galar region. And that further kind of pushes this theory that Scorbunny is going to be kind of like an athlete, soccer player. You know, Grookey is going to be a music-based kind of gorilla. And then Sobble is going to be a spy-themed chameleon. But I was looking into, like, famous spies in the area, and nothing really jumped out to me that was, like, super-duper obvious. So maybe spy isn't the right term that we're looking for. Maybe it's, like, undercover agent. I don't know, man. I don't know what the deal with that is going to be, but maybe it's Jack the Ripper inspired, man. I don't know. But nevertheless, they did say that these starter final evolutions are really going to make a lot of sense in the region as to kind of why they're the starters and why they're in the Galar region and how they all kind of connect together. And then, you know, as we had talked about, really the same stuff at the beginning there. Sobble, very kind, caring, good people. So some pretty interesting stuff about Sobble. From that interview, we can tease out two main things though. Well, I guess three main things. One, Sobble was a very unique design that, you know, they weren't really sure how people were gonna like, but people seem to love Sobble. Two, the art director, James Turner, is in love with Sobble's evolutionary line, which tells me that it's probably pretty awesome, I would guess. I would assume that he's pretty critical of the Pokemon, so I have a good feeling that Sobble could be the next Greninja. We'll see, I don't know. And when I say Greninja, I mean like that edgy, cool starter that most people tend to like. I have a feeling it's gonna have that kind of an effect. And then just the idea that, you know, the starters are gonna all make sense in the grand picture of the Galar region when all is said and done. So some pretty cool stuff there. Now, here's some, when you just search Sobble Evolution, there's been a lot of different ideas and themes and concept art and fan art and all that stuff. And there's a few that I really liked more than others. There's been, I mean, I've covered a bunch of the different one of these as they've kind of been released over the last few months. This was one of my favorite ones here, as you can see there. And there's been a handful of different Sobble evolutions like that people have done, but not a ton with the spy theme. When you search like Sobble evolution spy, like what do we get here? You don't really get too much. There's not a ton of like spy themed Sobbles going on here. I mean, there's a few designs that may, like this one is probably one of them, like I guess kind of a spy theme there. I don't really think that middle evolution really fits too much. Then there's like the Reaper, right? Like the Reptile, that's kind of cool, right? That's like a very edgy looking, I don't know if they put a Scythe on him, but I guess Scyther has one, right? It's got two. So some pretty cool ideas in terms of different possibilities for what this evolutionary line could look like. I actually really like something like this, where it kind of actually goes from being on the ground to kind of flying. But, you know, all we know from Sobble at this point, it disappears when it touches water. Its body can change its pattern to blending to its surroundings. So I think that spy theme makes a lot of sense if it can turn invisible. And this is what's made people think that it's very much so potentially a ghost type. Sobble's a bit timid. It gets nervous if it's embarrassed. It will secrete the water within its body and disappear into the surroundings. So that's really cool that it can kind of disappear. And then its tears are as potent as 100 onions. So it could when it's threatened, it can ball and spread its tears around the area, cause everyone to start crying uncontrollably, and then uses the distraction to escape. So Sobble, a very interesting Pokemon nevertheless. I mean, definitely one of the more unique starter designs that we've seen in terms of just its approach. Again, not being this like happy-go-lucky starter, but rather being kind of like a sad and more depressed type starter. So I'm curious what your thoughts are, guys. Hopefully we'll get some new news soon. They just did the Galarian Ponyta thing, so I don't know what's next in terms of the pipeline. I mean, we're about a month away from the game. My hope is that they reveal one new Pokemon every week, but I wouldn't even count on that. I do think we are going to get starter middle evolutions before the game comes out. I don't think we're going to get final evolutions at this point, but time will tell. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you guys are new, and let me know your thoughts on Sobble and the potential spy theme evolution for this little water lizard. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.